Hi, so over the weekend I upgraded my copy of Poser 7 to version 10, and now I'm just going to show you the basic software. Now I'm not going to give you any tutorials at this point. I'm just sort of introducing you to the basic interface and sort of showing you around some quick things. So it's going to be a very informal kind of overview of what's going on here. Now it should be said that I'm not really an animator. I tend to use Poser for book covers and that kind of thing. So really sort of getting into the animation aspects of things isn't really what I've done in the past. However, I have sort of played around with it, obviously. Poser 10 has quite a lot of powerful features to it. But the great thing is that the user interface hasn't really changed that much over the years. So there are a few new features and things, but ultimately the main controls ever since the original Poser have largely remained very similar to the latest versions. For example, you can sort of rotate around the mannequin quite easily using the sort of the orbie thing here, and you can sort of translate it in and out and sort of move your camera around, and you can move up and down. And you've got different cameras you can select as well, just by clicking on here, which will sort of focus on hands, face, that kind of stuff. You can also get that, I believe, from here. So yeah, you can go to camera view. You can see all the different camera views here. So you've got dolly camera, auxiliary camera, which is also known as director camera in many other suites, left, right, top, bottom. So very standard stuff. You've also got lighting and camera objects in the main scene. So as you rotate, you'll see these objects around. Actually, the light controls are over here. You can adjust the color very quickly just by clicking on that and changing the colors as you will. As you see, it gives you a nice real-time preview. And like so. So you get something like that little brownish color we had originally. And so yeah, I mean, so you know, some very easy, very intuitive controls. Now, of course, we don't really buy this software package to play with mannequins like this, but we can. I mean, it's fully opposable, and you can move things around and bend things and put things in some very painful-looking positions. And as you see, it's all nicely rigged, and you sort of get this nice jumping action and that sort of thing. You can move the arms, tilt the head, all that kind of stuff, and this is what I mean about some very unnatural positions. If you're too heavy-handed with the controls, you can end up with something like that. But that's not a big problem. You can also use these sort of sliders here to eliminate any mistakes like that. So you've got very fine control everything, which is great. Now I want to get rid of this one, and we'll add a character. Now this isn't really for making characters, it's really for posing pre-existing characters. So you're going to be relying on the library resource a lot. If you don't see library, then you can click on window and get it from here. So as you can see, libraries has been selected there. You've also got animation palettes and helps, walk designers, that kind of stuff. And we're just going to expand here and see what we got. Now people are what we're going to be most interested in, and we have various generations of Poser model. The latest one is the Roxy model, and if we double click on the Roxy Casual, you also have new models in this, so you can literally dress them up as much as you want. Just waiting for this to come in. My machines are getting a little bit old now, so it does take a bit of time to load stuff in, though I am using an SSD drive, which helps offset this a little bit, but a lot of this of course is animation and rendering work, and I'm using a quad-core AMD 640 processor, so it's not the fastest thing in the world, but it gets reasonable enough performance providing you've got a little bit of patience. But as you can see, this is the default casual model. I'm just going to zoom in on the face there, and we'll do a render. Now you can see there's sort of little errors and things appearing on the model. These get filtered out as soon as you start doing renders. This is just because we're rendering it real time in OpenGL. As you can see, the hair doesn't look that good, and generally it's okay. It's not even that good for a game model, really, to be honest. But this is an edit level, so don't expect it to be that good. So if we click on render and just do a standard render here, I'll show you how long it takes to do on this machine. Again, this is 6 GB of RAM running Windows 8.1. I'm screen capturing at the same time. It's a 3 gigahertz processor, quad core, with an SSD drive. Oh, the other thing I should mention is when I first ran this software after doing a Windows 8.1 update, it crashed. So if this is happening to you, don't panic. Go and grab the latest service pack for Poser and you won't have any issues. This kind of artifact I'm getting here where it's going black and thinking about it is also quite standard for Poser. So if you see this, don't panic. It hasn't crashed. It's simply taking its time loading textures and working everything into memory. So again, I've got fairly limited memory on this machine. This is 64-bit software and I've only got 6 gig of RAM. Plus, again, I'm downloading things in the background and I am screen capturing all this at the same time. So be prepared for a little bit of waiting if you're loading your machine down with as many apps as I do. Okay, so I did pause the video while it was just loading that video. Sorry, while it was loading that that texture up, which was taking a lot of time. It took about 2 minutes from when I hit the pause button. But as you can see, rendering is now. Now, what it's doing now is pre-calculating subsurface scattering, which basically gives shadows and skin textures that little bit of extra fine detail. And once that's done, it will then start filling in all the colour. So this won't be the final product by any means, but this will give you a fairly reasonable idea of what it will all look like. So now you see it's rendering the hair. Now this is cloth based hair, not strand based hair. The advantage of that is cloth based hair is quite a lot faster to work with. Strand based is requires quite a bit more processing time. So as you can see, it's filling in all the detail here. So there you go, we now have our rendered character. As you can see, it does a pretty nice looking natural job of doing this. And that's something I find in some other 3D software is it tends to look very much larger than life, the colours are overly vivid and that kind of stuff. But this is a nice mute kind of colouring and texture, and I generally like it because to me it looks a bit more realistic. I mean, it's not fully photorealistic, but it's certainly not bad on default settings. Now you can change all this and all that kind of stuff. For instance, you can change the shininess of the skin, you can make it glow if you want to. There's endless amounts of things you can do, but this is just default settings. You can go back to preview anytime and that'll take you back, and you also have a number of sort of document displays, so we can see her in wireframe. This is just a very fast way of posing the model, reduces the amount of system resources it requires. You can go to various levels of wireframe as well. As you can see, that one kind of lets everything show through it and gives you even the back vertices as well as the front vertices, whereas this one just gives you the front vertices and you actually see something more like a model. Then you add a bit of shading. This sort of gives you, well, it's just the shading of the shadow shading more than anything else. And there you got this sort of pixelated kind of effect. I'm sure there's another name for that, but I can't remember what it was. You've got flatlined here, which just sort of overlays the hidden lines and the shaded bits there, just merges those together. You've got a cartoon effect here. Or this is kind of a black and white document kind of display. This is a cartoon with line, smooth shaded, smooth with texturization, and there we got the basic shaded display. So you've got several ways of sort of setting that up as well. You can also go to Toon tones and you can view it in comic book mode. So this will be a black and white manga style comic book. If I want to adjust the lighting, so you can adjust the lighting, get some more light on her face, put it behind or forward, so we get kind of a more cartoony outliney look there. You can get some shading, and you can go to comic book with colour, and same sort of thing. You can adjust all the lighting very quickly and easily for kind of a gritty looking comic kind of effect. You can lighten up her face properly, and just play around with everything until you get the effect you want. And of course you can turn all this off and go to smooth toned. You also have another undertones. You can sort of go to highlight modes. This doesn't seem to make a lot of difference in preview mode. Something else you can do is render it as a pencil sketch. So a sketch style render. This is great for sort of little book inserts and that kind of stuff. So you've got kind of a coloury pencil sketch there. You've also got a number of different rendering tools. So if you go to render settings, and as you can see, we've got various ones here. We've got preview settings here, so you can set everything up as well if you like. You can turn on ambient AO, ambient collision, all that kind of stuff, and save settings, go back to preview. As you can see, it makes a little bit of a difference to the lighting. And what else do we have? We have the actual rendering engines, of course. So this is the Firefly engine. This is the default engine. You've got things like 3D motion blur, Toon outlines, and various other tools. These take a bit of experimenting with, a bit of playing with. Just sort of doing a random, what's we call it now, wouldn't really benefit us much. But you've got some extra sketching tools as well. So you've got various different forms of sketch, so you can render that. And you get a more black and white sketch. Like so. Now, of course, the other thing we want to do with Poser is pose things. So we can do that by going up to the pose library here. And we can expand upon all this, so we can get some people poses. And I'm using the the Roxy one. So speciality. And we've got some very limited number of poses here. I'm not actually sure. Oh yeah, universal poses, it's more like it. So we go for universal poses. We've got action and comic book, and let's put you in a superhero pose. So all I did was double click on it, and as you can see, all it's done is adjust their hair, which isn't exactly what we want. So we can always go back, edit, undo. Now if I select the hair and go object, figure conform to, and if I set that to Roxy, then the hair will automatically aligns to the body. And then if I select Roxy from over here, select the whole body and double click on this, it should then apply it. Oh, that's interesting, it's not. So apparently the universal poses aren't working very well on this. Not sure why that is. As I say, I'm quite new to the software, so I'm going to be discovering little problems like this as I go through. Undo. Try a different one. Try selecting her directly, see what happens. Okay, so we've got some movement now. So there we go. We got a nice superhero pose. So apparently selecting the whole body didn't quite have the effect that I intended it to. But we have the sort of running start, I think it is. Running start while carrying a heavy trash can. That's my best guess. But all it takes is a double click and you can get any number of different poses. You can buy poses online as well. And sort of have a look at this in comic book mode. So there we go, we've kind of got a comic book image there, which is a far better example of what I was trying to show before. You've got plenty of other poses as well. You don't have to go for handling objects and jumping. You've got some business poses. At a meeting, let's try a meeting setting. Okay, so she's sitting in a chair there basically, but we don't have a chair yet. And it's as easy as just double clicking on the one you want. And of course you can adjust it all. So if you want to make changes to the pose, animate it, bend her, or if you want to put her in really unnatural positions, you can, which is half the fun sometimes. Edit, undo that one, I think. That looked rather painful. We also have various animations as well that you can load into it. And you also have something called a walk designer. So let's try giving her a power walk, shall we? And let's play the animation. So there you go, she's having a power walk down the street. And I'll give her a sexy walk. Okay, I'll take their word for that. But again, you can customize all this yourself. So this saves you time because you get the base motion in there, and then it's just a matter of now, as you can see, what I've been doing is adding various animations to the timeline. I haven't really been resetting them or anything, which is why you're getting that strange effect. I'm just going to reset it the cheap and easy way by resetting that to 0 frames, and then I'm going to take it back up to 50 again and play. And as you can see, the animation is now being cleared off. So that's a quick tip for clearing out unwanted animations. See her walk in a tough girl pose. The other thing, of course, is facial expressions. You can change all those as well. So trying to reset her back. Now, if I remember, if you go to universal pose, you should have a 0. Actually, no. If I go to it was Roxy and absolute 0, and that should reset her back to the way she was. There we go. Now, if we go down here, we'll also have facial expressions. And again, you've got a nice big content library made of pre-made facial expressions. So let's try the Roxy facial expressions. Let's try random face. And for this, we might want to zoom in on the face. It's quite a useful feature because you can just get random, quite subtle changes. So this is her looking scared and joyful and disgusted, which is generally the expression I get from most women, but never mind. Singing, talk, not much difference from singing. Sad. I'm not sure if that's sad, it's more manipulative to me. But again, you can change all these things yourself. So if I click on the face here and go to head controls and expressions, then you have very subtle controls over everything as well. So you can get everything just the way you like. You can sort of mix everything up as well. So here she's angry, joyful, and disgusted. So quite a confused woman. Probably a time of the month. Probably shouldn't have said that. I'll get in trouble for that one. But as you can see, you can get some interesting effects just by randomly playing around with these things. And again, you can control how much of something is in the expression. So if you ever want mixed emotions, then that's a very easy way of doing it. And of course, you can animate it as well. So if I had a quick keyframe there, so there's the basic one. And then if I move along a few frames, let's increase this to 30. Now if I move along here, then in theory, this is the usual expression I get from girls, so there we go. We'll just go with that one. And if I play that now, as you can see, the animation is placed in there. And of course, you can adjust at any point in the timeline. So that should be quite an interesting one. Like so. So there we go. You can also change the shape of the face. Browse, you can change a face in a face room if you like, so you can adjust everything here. You can add string-based hair if you like. However, I've had very little success with this because I've got problems with collision detection. They have a bullet physics engine in here. It doesn't seem to work the right way for me, so it's almost certainly the case that I don't know what I'm doing with it, so I won't bother showing you anything I don't know about. You can also simulate cloth and all that kind of stuff. You've got lots of physics tools in this, actually. You also got Torque Designer, but if we have a look at bullet physics controls, then you can set up new simulations for objects. I'm still learning all of this because, again, I'm not really into animation. I tend to be into the pre-posed positions kinds of areas. You've got Torque Designer. So here's what you can basically do is provide some text and some audio, and you can adjust kind of levels of emotion, that kind of stuff, and you can basically create a whole talking experience, and they actually sort of say the script out to you. Now, this can be successful and sometimes it's not very successful, so it's a little bit of hit and miss sometimes. Again, I haven't really played with it that much, but just going into it straight off without really doing any study, you tend to get quite difficult. You tend to get into some fairly interesting situations. But it's fairly easy to use in the fact that you just provide some supplemental text, you provide a voice file, and it will do its best to try and calculate all that with you. It also creates eye motion, head motions, and it's all quite clever stuff that can create some very convincing animations, providing you put the time into it. And of course, I don't really have the time to go into it right now because I'm trying to do a fairly quick one. You also got some setup doodahs where you can set up morph targets. Haven't really got into that myself yet, so I'm not going to try and tell you about that. You can also click. You also got a content tab up here, and this allows you to go off to the Content Paradise site and grab some new media. So if you want new figures, human figures, and that kind of stuff, then you can grab them all off from here. Not sure whether they've got Hitler up there, but they have. There you go. You've got plenty of sort of media choices to purchase. And they're all quite cheap. You've got a few for like $2. Then you've got $12. So you're not going to spend an absolute fortune on these things. And you can often get the materials you want to produce effects very quickly. And of course you can go back to Pose and play around with all that kind of stuff as well. So there you go. There's my kind of unorganized and brief summary of Poser. You can see some of the renderings I've done. They're quite artistic and quite nice. And you can adjust all the settings as well to get exactly the effect you want. So don't let my rushed approach put you off this application. It really is very powerful once you take the time to get into it. Generally takes me about an hour or so to set up a scene just as I want it and get the kind of effects I want. I haven't really produced anything yet with Poser 10 because everything I've done so far has been in Poser 7, so I won't bother showing you my previous material in that. But I will at some point in the future come back with some renderings and whatchamacallits and show you what I've created. But it's a fairly no-nonsense application. It will get you from A to B. Again, don't expect it to be a content creator program. It's really a matter of getting the base models into the software and then adjusting that model as you want. And I suppose I really should show you sort of face doodahs there. So if I just pick a random face like so and just apply to figure, and okay, this is going to be different colour from the rest of the body. So no, I don't want to do it. And there. And that face should have changed a little bit. We'll try that again. Give her a really long nose, actually demonstrate it. So if we apply shape only, then as you can see, she's got a very long nose now, and it's that easy to try and change the face. So yeah, that's basically it. This is Poser. I hope this rather messed up video has been at least of some use to you. As I learn my way, or as I refresh my skills, because I really haven't used Poser in a year and a half, I will come back with some various tutorials and things to show you what I've learned and how to do various tasks. But yeah, it's a pretty good piece of software, and I'm happy I purchased it.